Another area that I touched on with the difficulty here is the director and the partner not really understanding what is possible in data analytics. I mean, how much of a play do you think that, I mean, that sort of interlocks with the lack of vision because you don't know, what's possible?
I think this comes back to the silver bullet thing that we've talked about previously. And as I've said to you, silver bullet to me always is synonymous with quick fix. Okay. Somebody wants a silver bullet because it's going to take time and effort to actually do this. So resourcing comes in many forms. Resourcing comes from either building your own knowledge, building the knowledge of a team member, or engaging someone as a third party to help you with the journey. Okay. I am a massive, massive believer that accountants are poised in this area to become Power BI experts. Okay. Especially around data advisory, because we've already got the skills that makes a good data advisor, right? All we're trying to do here is mean that you don't need to have such a propeller head to be able to operate it. Okay. So the skills that an accountant has are things like the ability to problem solve, the ability to communicate. Okay. And that's probably one of the key ones in this whole thing this is why advisor is taking so long to implement inside firms everywhere, is that we need to use that communication paradigm as much in Power BI as it is with advisory. Power BI is just another form of advisory that's data driven. So I think that we actually need to build resources in multiple areas. I think that the organizational sponsor or head actually needs to, once they see Power BI, is actually invest a little bit of time into understanding it, not learning it, understanding it. And probably one of the people that I always go and use as a practical example to this is Matt. So Matt, if you asked him to build, so I'm talking, and maybe might edit this out depending if Matt says it's okay or not. So Matt's Matt Sherwood of Advise Accountants. He originally, when we started with him on a Power BI journey, Matt doesn't know how to build a report, right? Wouldn't know how to. He couldn't add a visualization to a report, but he's got a team that helps him do that. So Matt understands what his client needs, understands what needs to be delivered. He knows how to communicate to the client and build that rapport and that advisory. He has got a team around him, internally and externally, that helps deliver solutions. So I think that what people first see is they see Power BI looks awesome. They then go and say, I want to implement this into my business. I think they miss two things. One is a strategy around how they're going to use it internally and for clients. And number two is actually building up the support mechanism around it. So like any skill, Power BI takes time to learn how to use. It then takes more time to become an expert in it. And unless you're a sole trader or a one-man band, or everyone else is just purely focused on accounting, you actually need a team around you, not to learn. Like, I'm not talking about you need a whole team of Power BI people and that's all they do. Like, you need a team of people who understand and can use Power BI to help you implement your ideas. Okay, so if we can actually start with things like templates and things like that. Templates, once again, aren't a silver bullet. They're something there to shortcut the journey. Okay, they still require implementation, they require support, they require vision, and they require an advisory skill around them.
Right.
Look, absolutely. I think that just like any kind of business is you're trying to align yourself with people who, number one, can offer you a complete service. So therefore, you're dealing with one person, one key contact point. But I think that there's also a bit of technology is changing so rapidly across every industry out there. Knowing that you've got a partner that's actually looking at this kind of stuff, that's executing in this area. We've actually sat in with a few firms where we've actually sat with them as they've pitched to new clients to go and say, hey, we have data analytics. Now, they might not have a formal data analytics team, but they've partnered with, say, my business to then go and say, hey, actually, we want to talk to this client, and we understand that this is going to make us different to everyone else who's pitching the exact same. I'm offering you advisory to do your tax returns, your super fund, everything else like that. So I think it does offer a point of differentiation. What my concern is that firms that don't start actually embracing these services, is it's going to be a deficiency in services in years to come. That if you're not doing this kind of thing, then you'll actually take a backward step. So you'll get a negative mark rather than at the moment, if you're doing it, you're getting a +1 against your services. So that's, I guess, why I try and encourage firms to explore this area, because we know that the larger firms are actually getting involved in this space, and it is becoming a little bit of a differentiator at the moment. But as I said before, size doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? You can be small, you can be big. And this kind of stuff that we were doing using different tools than Power BI used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to operate. And in medium to large enterprises, this kind of analysis has been available. It's just that now we can offer it to clients at a very affordable price. The gateway, honestly, is mindset and recognizing this is a future avenue of business. Once we get past that, we're talking about using the skills you've already learnt and just picking up a few data skills along the way, or enabling some of your team to have those data skills. And you're right, piggyback on the knowledge that they've acquired to service your clients. Like, I don't suggest that everyone becomes a Power BI expert.
Mm-hmm.
Just the same way as I don't say that everyone should become an Excel expert. But what I would love to do is every one of us have got that person in the office who's that Excel expert, right? Who at the moment we've got an Excel problem that just becomes too tough, we pick up the phone and say, hey, Boyd, how do I solve this problem?
Mm-hmm.
What I would love to see is that we end up with the same thing for Power BI in firms, that we've got that resident expert that sits there, and there might be multiple experts.
I think that's almost essential to have someone that has grasped at least the basics of Power BI, DAX, and the data model. Without understanding the basics of how it comes together, I think you're going to throw money at something and burn a lot of money just throwing resources at it and throwing subscription costs at it. Got to have at least someone in the firm that really understands it and will be able to drive it.
What you probably need is a bit of a healthy suspicion of the numbers and the ability to interrogate whoever's producing these reports for you to say, okay, what's the basis for this? Where are these numbers coming from? Is the measure that we're producing based on solid facts, or is it, because the one thing about data analytics, I guess, is that you put garbage in, you get garbage out. So, and whoever's producing your reports should be looking for that. But if they're not, then certainly, or, things could be missed, or they're just trying to hit a deadline, right? And so everyone makes mistakes. A healthy suspicion of whoever's consuming these reports of the numbers to make sure that they're right before they take decision on it is really important. And if the numbers are unfounded for whatever reason, so, incomplete timesheets or whatever the case may be, then that's where you need to do a little bit of work with your client to fix up the data entry, okay, and to say, well, actually, we need everyone to put in their timesheets wholly, or to make sure that people are clocking off rather than forgetting to do so and do, the next day and resulting in a timesheet that looks like they spent 24 hours on a job, which is wholly unrealistic. So I guess a healthy suspicion of numbers should always be the case. But I think that's a good role for an accountant anyway, in that if you're looking at a number on a profit and loss or a balance sheet, you're probably looking at it saying, does that look right? And if it doesn't look right, then you're going to interrogate the data a little bit, or interrogate whoever prepared that particular set of accounts a little bit. So that's where I think there's maybe a good segue between analytics and accountants, in that they can look at figures, they can understand whether or not it looks reasonable, and then they have that capability for investigation into it. You're right in that it's a different set of numbers, no longer debits and credits. It's KPI based numbers that you're often looking at. Sometimes it's debits and credits as well, because when you're dealing with zero data or mild data or whatever. But yeah.
Correct. It's a good question actually, Cam, because I guess I'm a lot more management orientated. And I think because I've still own 3 or 4 other businesses, or have an equity interest in them, you actually know what information you actually do require. And it's not always just the straight financials. You need to be able to, analyze stuff and look at different things. So I guess the power of Power BI is really, your only limiting factor is your imagination and what you connect things with. And I'll give you some examples of that as well. What we're doing, we do a large amount of builders, and we're actually working out cost per square meter for builders and sales price and all that type of stuff to get a bit of a trend. Now, this is actually coming at a zero. Now, most people wouldn't have even thought you could do that, but it is possible.